Hi there, and welcome to the Tater Talk. I am your host, TheMikeJames, and for those new to the Tater Talk, we are a group of streamers that are dedicated to providing a space where new and aspiring streamers can share their stories and struggles so that we can all learn to grow together. With us today is Mousey, I like to call her, MouseWasTaken, to talk to us about why we love women on Twitch. Mousey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us, me included, about yourself, Mousey? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do on Twitch?
So online I go by Mouse. I'm 26. I'm from Scotland. Best country in the world, don't deny it. And I am currently a full-time content creator and freelance artist and illustrator. I mostly stream video games on Twitch, with the occasional creative stream. And I just kind of got started on Twitch because I watched some really inspiring people. And they were like, you know what, you should give it a go. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people. And so far, it's been incredible. I mean, I've met so many amazing, friends for life through Twitch. It's great.
Yeah, so you said that you were from Scotland. Obviously, we don't want to share exactly whereabouts, but roughly what sort of region? Is it the north, the south of Scotland?
I am from the East Coast, kind of in the middle.
Oh, that's cool. So is that like just a little bit north of Edinburgh?
Yeah, about there.
Oh, that's cool. What sort of games do you stream on Twitch, then, Mouse?
So my focus is probably RPGs and any game that's kind of story heavy. Recently we've been playing a lot of horror games, which is bad for my poor heart, but the chat loves it. And I do enjoy it. I just get scared very easily.
Yeah, so do
Um,
I.
but anything that you can get kind of pulled into the story, that's my jam.
So let's sort of pull back a little bit, because obviously, as per the subject, you're a woman on Twitch. So what's your experience been as a female on Twitch so far?
Um, I'm not gonna lie, there has been some parts that haven't been great. But I'm thankfully lucky enough that I have managed to get a community behind me that are incredible. Um, you know, even when there are people that come in that are trying to troll or are just trying to, um, you know, the general sort of show cleavage or um that sort of thing. Anyone that comes in to try to that, my community is on it instantly. And they've always got my back and it's amazing. So my experience won't be the same as everyone else's, but I've overall had a positive experience. Um and I highly put that down to having a great community.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I ask because one thing that we'll talk a little bit more about down the line, but obviously, you know, Twitch up until the last couple of years has been quite a male heavy. It's been quite a male heavy dominate platform, hasn't it? So, I think it is quite important that you understand. Well, everybody's journey is important, but it's nice to hear or ask. It doesn't matter what sort of caliber of streamer you are. It's nice to, just make sure that everybody is having fun on Twitch, but, more so that people aren't going out the way to, hurt the females and stuff on Twitch. And quite equally, obviously, males get hurt. But so if we roll on forward, then obviously you've had a relatively positive experience. Who's been your major driving force? Obviously, female. We're talking about females. So, who has been the major driving forces for your inspiration? That the women that you've looked up to.
For me, there's been a lot. I do watch a lot of very awesome female streamers. Um, Probably the most influential have been Sunachu, who is a partnered variety streamer. We are. I'm actually in the same stream team as her, and we've become pretty good friends. She has been an amazing source of positivity in my life. Dawn Whisper, I'm sure a lot of people listening know the Elf Queen on Twitch. She has been such an inspiration. Her streams and her community as a whole are incredible. Um, of course, we have the Yam mother, Ashney. Ashney's content really helped me bring my stream to like that next level. I found her on YouTube initially, and then I joined into her Twitch streams one day when I could actually make it because time difference is stuck. Um, and the sort of the community feel I had like instantly was incredible. Um, there's I could go on and on, but those three have definitely been um, a big influence in my content.
So what let's start from the top. So you said that the lady that you've or the woman that you've become quite close friends with. What drew you to her? Obviously, she's got a pretty awesome community by the sounds of it. But is there anything else that like drew you to to her streams or to her content, or was it just getting sucked in by such a positive community that sort of drew you in?
The first stream of hers I ever joined in was actually when she was doing a music stream. Um, and I think that had a big part of kind of sucking me in because it was something I hadn't seen on Twitch up until then.
Yeah, it's quite
Um,
rare, that isn't it? Music
yeah,
streams.
there's not like a huge amount of music streamers that I've sort of randomly come across without actually going into the category itself. And that definitely drew me in, but the community is what kept me there. Um, because no matter how many people she had watching, she was reading and interacting with every chat message. And to me, that's what's sort of my favorite part about Twitch is actually getting that real time interaction.
Well, yeah, like I think that's like I know we're sort of digressing a little bit, but um, I think the interaction on Twitch is kind of where a lot of people downfall starting out, and when you've got people to look up to, like her, people that are really going out the way to interact with chat, then it really does. It leaves a positive impact on people because I mean I don't know about you, but I feel like there's not a lot of people that really put 100% of their effort into chat because they're worried about the gameplay, they're worried about other things. So it is, to me at least, I feel like it's refreshing when you get somebody that's 100% focused on chat and really interacting with people because it makes you feel like you're actually welcome there rather than just you're there to interact with them rather than you're there to just watch them.
Yeah, exactly. It's um I know people come to Twitch for different reasons, and some people are there to see the high end gameplay. But for me, it's definitely got to be the community feel and the interaction. If a stream doesn't have that, then I am less likely to stay and watch it. It's, I mean, if a stream doesn't have interaction for me specifically, I'd rather just go and watch a YouTube video.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that. So just a quick background check on who I am. I do a podcast where we interview, like partnered and established streamers. And I find a lot of the time the advice that I end up giving to people is, like you've got to give your viewers an experience because if you just focus on the gameplay and don't give your viewer the experience, then you might as well go to YouTube and watch gameplay of the footage where you can probably find somebody that hasn't got a voiceover or anything and is just playing the game, and you can go and watch it there. So you've got to create an experience. That's like one of the first things that I tend to tell people when they ask for advice or help is about the experience that they create.
Yeah, exactly.
So drawing from obviously all these women that you've been inspired by, like what have you taken from these women that's helped build your? Obviously, we'll speak about Ashley Christ a little bit more in depth in a minute, because obviously that's where me and you both have common ground. But let's forget about Ashley Christ. What have you taken away from the other women on Twitch that has really helped up your game as a streamer?
I think probably the most important thing I have taken away from them is that it is perfectly okay to just be myself on Twitch. I don't need to go into some character. I don't need to, dress up any more than I normally would. I don't need to kind of um put on a show as
Mm,
such with who I am. I can just kind of come on and be myself, and people are there for that. They're there to know you and get to know you and get to know sort of your story and your journey.
yeah, yeah, I'd 100% agree with that, and that I mean that's just great. Obviously, my experience personally with obviously women like female streamers is obviously a little bit less broad, not out of choice, just because apart from Ashley Christ and well actually no there is one streamer, but we'll talk a little bit about her in a minute, because you might know her but I don't think you will. But let's move on to Ashley Christ real quick. So obviously this is where me and you have common ground, because for anybody that's listening in that doesn't know Ashley Christ for the off reason, Ashley Christ is a stream coach and a streamer here on Twitch, and she basically does a talk show 3 days a week where she helps streamers by guiding them in the right direction, giving advice and things. And then she also has a couple of extra side bits, like she'll on a Patreon she has tiers where she helps streamers, coaches them. So I'll start, if you don't mind, Mouse. I'll start real quick by just saying how
Yeah.
I met Ashley Christ, and I just want to get across why she, why she influenced me in such a way. Because it is actually quite a predominant story in my journey as a content experience, as a content creator. Because I actually used to stream Fortnite 6 nights a week from 9 p.m. till midnight every single night for about 5 months. And I was that guy that was a bit naive, and I came onto Twitch, last year, early last year, thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next big Fortnite streamer, and I'm going to stream Fortnite and make lots of money. The sort of bog standard story that you hear a lot of people have. And I actually met Ashley on Twitch. I honestly don't remember how I came across her channel. I believe do you know what? I'm not even going to try and remember because I just can't. But I do remember the first time that I started hanging out in her streams. And straight away, I was like absorbing information from her. But I didn't act on like what she said. She was doing like channel reviews, and she was reviewing my channel, giving me great information on my channel. But I didn't really take on board anything she had to say about oversaturation and things. And I basically started watching Ashley in about sort of May time last year. So we're coming up to about a year that I've known Ashley Christ. And about August time, I actually went on a trip to Scotland. And I love it in Scotland. But anyway, that's a different topic. So I went on a trip to Scotland and I took a week off, and I sort of realized that streaming Fortnite just wasn't getting me anywhere. I literally was stuck at about 10 viewers for about six or seven, well, it was about 5 months. So I took a week off, rebranded, came back, and then obviously started seeing growth. So obviously I think we both share something here, where Ashley Christ really impacted our channels, because she basically flipped my content on its head because of her advice and her guidance. and I went in a completely different direction. How did Ashley Christ? Obviously, you mentioned she sort of gave you a bit of advice that really helped, kick your channel into where it is now. But specifically, what were the elements that you picked up on from Ashley Christ when you first met her on on YouTube and then on Twitch?
So for me, the things that definitely kind of gave me that extra edge were increasing my social media presence, because I wasn't big on using social media before. And
Hmm.
I didn't really see a point in it. I didn't really realize, um, I'm the world's worst millennial. Okay, I don't use social media, or I do now, but I didn't use social media. And it wasn't for me. But after watching some of her videos and then some of her Twitch streams, I kind of thought, right, okay. So I kind of kicked it up a notch with Twitter to start with. Um, and just from that alone, I was instantly getting sort of like, upping to 10 average viewers every stream.
Hmm.
Um, so I started kind of saying, okay, it does actually make a difference. I'll start using it a bit more. Um, and then thinking, what else can I kind of do? And before that, my stream schedule was non-existent. It was just kind of sporadic. It was, I'll post when I'm going live. It'll be fine. And then setting sort of a set schedule, that really helps. And sort of you hear it all of the time, but you don't really, you think, oh no, everyone says it. It's just sort of standard advice at this point, but it's like consistency is actually key. Um and that sort of, from there, it was kind of okay, so what else can I do? And it's like, okay, let's not play all of these like oversaturated games. Let's find something that we can play that, it's going to have viewers, but it's not going to have too many viewers. And that's kind of what brought me down the story based games, because people enjoy watching them, especially sort of the ones where you can make choices and get people involved in that. And they're not as oversaturated as, your battle royales and your first person shooters and stuff. So it kind of pushed me down that sort of lane, I guess.
Yeah. So obviously she gave you a lot of great advice, but what is it? Let's forget about the advice that she's given both of us. What is it about Ashley Christ um that you really enjoy? Is it the like the element of just being yourself and pushing for more in the community, or is it just her, or what is it specifically that draws you to Ashley Christ?
So for me, I love that Ashley is unapologetically herself. There is no sort of act being put on there. That's just who she is as a person, and I love it because she is hyper and positive and just a great influence on people, and I
Mm.
love that about her.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree that honestly, there's nothing I could possibly say that would add to that because I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I do want to sort of mention that we mention Ashley Christ because it's like something that we share in common in terms of like the streaming community, and we both know Ashley, but there is like there's a lot of other female influence that you've mentioned that have influenced you, and there has with me as well. We've got the video game diva, who is not she is a variety streamer predominantly, but she does a lot of things like marbles on stream. Which, if anybody doesn't know what marbles is, it's basically just like a marble run, but it's virtual and it's like RNG, so you can't control it or anything. It's just everybody uses a command that places a marble in the game, and they all race to the end. But the video game diva sort of really um, solidified, because a lot of my community members, when I switched to marbles, sort of didn't really grasp the concept. I mean, they still came to the stream to listen to me, but they didn't really grasp the concept of why I wanted to do it. But it was like the people like the video game diva that I really looked up to, who sort of really planted that, and it was working for her. So I knew that following, not following her exactly, but using her as, sort of an inspiration. It kept me going. Certainly when I considered stopping it, and it's not everybody likes it, but it is definitely one of the more fun nights of my streams. But I wanna just step forward from the women that inspires. And I know I mentioned briefly at the beginning, and I think we sort of have to be careful about how we tread about this. But I mentioned to you, didn't I, about it's not the issues that women face, but you know issue women do face a bit of what you could only describe as misogyny um on Twitch. And I did want to bring this up because it's a big factor that that a lot of people complain about. So I wanted to first get your view on like the women that sexualize their content in order to gain try and gain a viewership from it. Like what's your opinion on that?
For me, honestly, like if it's within Twitch's terms of service, then girl, get your hustle on. Like if that is working for them, then more power to them. Um, I personally, I'm not comfortable doing it, but that's not because of what it is, and just more because of how I feel within my own body. But the girls that can do it, like more power to them, because
Hmm.
if it's getting them there, then that's great. It's is nothing wrong with using any advantage you have, in my opinion, as long as it is within terms of service.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I've always openly said on many of my previous content that I 100% would stand by any female that wanted to stream on Twitch, no matter how she did it. If she's providing content and isn't breaking the terms of service, then well, like you said, more power to her. And although it's not personally something that I watch, it is something that if I had a friend that did it, or like a stream team member that was that produced that kind of content, then I'd stand by them. But I think it's important to discuss, especially since we're on the subject of talking about why we love women on Twitch, because for me, it's kind of, do you know what I really love about it? I love that, like, I love that it's been a thing ever since Twitch started, but I love that the bigger that Twitch has got, the more predominant these arguments have arisen. And I absolutely love it when they get stomped on, um by, well, not even just the streamers that produce that kind of content, but everybody that's got some sort of brain on their shoulders understands that it's just body confidence at the end of the day. Like, I wish I had the confidence to, you know I would love to wear a bikini on well, maybe not a bikini, but but if I had,
Same,
yeah, if,
same.
if I had that confidence, man, I'd produce it. I'd be producing next level content, I tell you. But um so yeah, I mean, we share sort of an understanding on that. Have you witnessed? Obviously, you said that your personal journey has been quite positive. Have you witnessed any like extreme examples of misogyny, or just hatred towards any sort of you know female on Twitch?
I have. I mean, a few of my favorite streamers to watch are women of color, and I think they have that sort of added disadvantage, so to speak, of the fact that they are a person of color and they're a woman, and they just get double the hate at times. And it makes me sick, it really does, because these are some fantastic content creators, and these are some fucking powerful women. Like,
Mm.
I would not want to mess with them, you know? I love how some females, like some women, handle themselves on Twitch. Gothic's model is a prime example of how to deal with trolls and hatred. She is amazing at it,
Mm.
and I wish I could deal with stuff as well as she does. I genuinely think if I got given half as much hatred as some of these women, I wouldn't be here on stream anymore. I would not have the skin for it, not with some of the things people say to them, but just seeing people like Gothics like shut down trolls makes my day.
Yeah, I think she makes everybody's day. So, what? One thing I do want to ask you: why do you think there's just so much sort of misogyny on Twitch? Why do you think like why do you think females get so much slack?
Um, so I think there's a couple of things. I think firstly, there's a lot of people that still have the mentality that Twitch is meant for gaming and nothing else. So when you get people that are primarily sort of just chatting streamers or streamers that do any other thing, because there are like pole fitness streams on Twitch and stuff that are all perfectly within terms of service. But as soon as you get something like that, or body painting is another big one. As soon as you get that thing that kind of breaks that mold of this is a gaming platform, they will start getting hatred. And it's 100% in some cases, it's literally just down to the mentality that Twitch is for gamers. And then you have, on the other hand, there are streamers that are out here and they're doing what you used to do. They're streaming Fortnite 6 nights a week and they're not going anywhere. And then they see a woman streaming with, 40, 50, 60 viewers and they're like, oh, they only have viewers because they're showing cleavage. Women are stealing my views. And it's like, they're not, but okay.
Oh, that argument.
Like, if someone was coming to Twitch literally just to watch a woman with cleavage, first of all, they're never going to be watching your content anyway. And second of all, I'm pretty sure they would just go to another site that's
Mm-hmm. Yep.
willing to show a bit more.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just this sort of this mentality that it's gotta be all about gaming and it's gotta be these high level gameplay, or if it's just the plain old misogyny that we face every day. Um and I would like to say that there's got to be some sort of reason behind it, but I'm sure any woman out there can back me up that there is not always a reason behind misogyny. Sometimes it's just people being dicks.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I was actually watching a stream earlier. A good friend of mine, called Tink the Gamer Girl, who is a variety streamer, on Twitch. She focuses on single player games. I was actually watching her earlier, and hanging out in a chat as I usually do, and then straight away she had a gentleman, or I presume a gentleman, come in, and started tick like he had like this little tick list of things that he was like not necessarily checking for, but he was like, oh, like certain branded headphones, tight blue pants, standing up on stream, and it was like, I mean, for somebody like me, it's difficult to get my head around why anybody would be like that. So, I, I mean, who do you think the main? See, I don't want to. I have to be careful how I ask this, but do you think that it might be predominantly like a younger generation doing this, or do you think it doesn't matter? Do you think it's just people, certain people in general? It doesn't matter what age they are. Just if they are intending to be dicks, then they'll be dicks.
You know what? It doesn't matter what age they are. If they want to, then they will.
Hmm.
And what really gets to me about it is that it's not always men either. There are women out there just like tearing other women down, and that really gets me because It's 2019. We should be out here building each other up and getting through this battlefield together, and it's not happening at times.
Yeah, I mean, I have noticed it, not a lot so on Twitch because obviously, not being a female, I don't really, um, I don't really get in sort of into those areas. But I have seen it quite heavily in another area, which is my fiance, who is a horse rider. Um, Obviously, that is a very, very heavy female dominated thing, where we are in the UK, and she used to be on a farm where there would be a new rumor going around about somebody. Now, this happens everywhere. I'm not saying that this is a female gender specific thing at all, but what I am saying is that I did notice that, despite the fact that everybody shares like a common interest, aka, at the farm it'd be horses. Um, they would rather tear each other down than build each other up. And would you say that there's quite a predominant element of that on Twitch? Like, or do you what I'm trying to ask is, do you find that most women on Twitch are really supportive, or do you find it to be the opposite in your experience and opinion?
In my experience, it's been pretty much the same with everything, and that's that the majority of people are very supportive, very positive, but there's that loud vocal minority that just makes it feel like there's more of them than there are.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, you'll find that with everything, but if you go on to some of the Twitch related Facebook groups and people will post their going live selfies and stuff, and the amount of hatred that is just kind of spewed into the comment section, but it'll be like a 20,000 member group, and on any post you will always find the same sort of 5 to 10 people that are the ones that are putting these horrible comments around. um and I don't think it's so much that there's a lot of people doing it. I think it's just that they're very loud and they want to make themselves heard.
Yeah, it's alien to me that, I mean, if that's the way that you want to run things, I suppose, then we're really not in a position to, you know tear them down. You don't fight. Well, some people say you fight fire with fire, but I don't believe in that approach. At all. But so if we move on from the issues, of being a female, I want to talk a little bit about, sort of the positive aspects. And what I mean by that, before anybody uh, picks up the pitchforks, is obviously I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and it'd be interesting to get your take on it. But the reason why, now I openly admit that I tend to find, people like Ashley Christ a lot easier to watch than, say, some, like a male streamer playing a video game, purely out of the fact that I find them more sentimental and more sort of emotionally open. Uh, and as quite a sort of a soppy emotional guy, I find I can connect easier with, like the females on Twitch. And I don't know what your take is on that, but I feel like females on, women on Twitch tend to have a lot more sort of empathy and a lot more, like, they seem to have a lot more of an open and accepting nature. I mean, I don't know if you'd agree or disagree, but
um I don't think I can say that that's right or wrong, really. I think it will largely change depending on the communities you run in. Um, but I mean, I primarily am in very sort of open and welcoming communities, and I think because of that, there's a lot of male and female streamers that do kind of they share the struggles as well as um, the upsides. A lot of the communities that I'm in, are focused around things like disabilities and mental health, just because that's part of like my brand as well. And going into streams like that is definitely a predominant feature, is that you can sort of connect with the streamer emotionally as well, because they're putting themselves out there. But I mean, I think personally, I found that to be the case with any stream that I've gone to that has had a high sort of focus on interaction and community. Um, the places where I don't really connect is, like you said, I don't really go to streams where all of the focus is on gameplay, because there isn't that connection there.
Yeah. Obviously, I'll be openly honest, and I'll say it is weird. Well, it's not weird, but it does feel a bit. I don't know. I want to be open and honest and say that I feel like sometimes, you know, even me just now on this stream saying that um I connect easier with females. I feel like that already, you know, creates a lot of judgment on my on my behalf, and I don't know if anybody else listening would agree, but I do feel, just me personally, I do feel like, women are just easier to talk to, and I don't know what it is. I think I don't know what I could put that down to. It's just, like meeting Ashley Christ, and I used to actually be a moderator. I was a moderator. I still am a moderator for a he was a full-time streamer called Aurelian, who used to stream Minecraft content back in the day, but she now works for Twitch. And she was a huge influence in my early days as a content creator, when I was doing it as a hobby when I was at uni, and I just was able to watch her over the millions and millions of other, um, streamers, because there were streamers like Captain Sparkles and things like that I had the opportunity to, get to know, and a couple of my friends went on to moderate for Captain Sparkles, but I kind of I feel like I feel like I'm opening myself up to judgment by saying, that I'd find it easier to watch a girl on Twitch because of her, because of not her, but because of the ability to open up emotionally a bit more, and have a bit more empathy than what a male would. Um, but I mean, what do you think to that?
No, I can understand that sort of that mindset, and I think, a lot of that does come down to the fact that they're like, it's 2019, and there is still this sort of mindset that females have to be, women have to be the caretakers and the ones that are there for you emotionally, and men have to be this manly butch sort of never show any emotion kind of thing. And some people still feel that way, and still some people still sort of think that way. So I can understand where you're coming from in saying that it's easier to find that connection with women streamers rather than male streamers, because there is still that mindset even nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I would say that not consciously, but certainly subconsciously, I kind of do sort of feel what you like, what you've said, because I don't I wouldn't actively sit here and say, that I am a quite a closed off person, and that I believe that, like, I'm not saying that I believe in the sort of gender roles at all, but what I'm saying is that I kind of feel that, consciously I don't think like that, but subconsciously I feel that way. Like, I have never ever been one to open up to people, and it's not out of, not out of ignorance or anything like that. It's just out of I think it's just me as a character and who I am. But I think that's why I might find it just that little bit easier. But I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. But so if we sort of take this forward a little bit, and rather than speak about, um why we enjoy watching them, and speak about the the sort of reason why we're doing the podcast, and why we love women on Twitch is, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head by saying, well, not just women, but when they have this powerful message to, drive more women to Twitch and to, keep women, fighting to be themselves and things like that is just is fantastic. I mean, have you had any experience with like influencing any females or anything like that? Has any girls said to you that you inspire them or anything?
Um, Me personally, no. But I have been sort of fortunate enough to not I wouldn't say I would inspire anyone, but I've been fortunate enough to be part of the start of some women's journeys and just see them sort of grow on Twitch and kind of open up on Twitch even further. Um,
Mm.
and kind of go from that being too scared to stream to turning it almost into a part-time job or a career in some cases, and that alone has been incredible to see.
Yeah, I mean, is there any elements that you wanted to discuss? Is there anything that you had in mind? When me and you first discussed the topic that we wanted to talk about, was there anything that jumped to your mind that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, for me personally, I love seeing more support for minority groups. So I I mean, not really something to talk about, but just sort of a message um that I would like to kind of put out there a little bit is that if you see a woman of color or a woman of the LGBT community or a disabled woman on Twitch and you like their content, tell them and give them that feedback that you really enjoy their content, because even though it's 2019, they are still very underrepresented communities, and as much as people don't realize, representation is so important in this day and age, even now, because there is still hatred coming from all sides at times. And, sometimes just telling someone that you enjoy their content, it can make their day.
Yeah, I mean that goes for absolutely anybody. Never mind just females, but yeah, certainly if you have a female streamer, no matter how big or small, um, or any streamer for that matter, you should definitely just tell them. Don't, in fact, I would say not even just to tell them how happy you are to see their content and everything that you've just said, but I think it's also worth just telling them that you're proud of them as well, because I'm sure it's like you've mentioned it. I'm sure it's not easy. um it's not easy putting yourself on camera. Me and you both know, as streamers, putting yourself on camera, straight away you open yourself up to judgment from anybody, because I mean, I'm sure you'll agree that we as humans judge before we even think. And it's not because we dislike people or anything. It's just because that's how we are naturally. In nature, we judge everything. We judge a distance, we judge a look, we judge everything in life. We're always judging. If we're looking at something, we're judging it. And I feel like sometimes we need to take a step back and just well, most normal people, I'm sure you'd agree, would not act upon any sort of negative judgment, but learn to pick out the positive things in an individual or an object, um, and make it known that what you love about that person and about that individual. What do you think? So on that, what do you think we can do to try and help, you know, inspire more females on Twitch? Because obviously we've spoken about what you found inspiring, how do you think we can use that to drive more women, more awesome women onto Twitch as a platform?
So, one of the main things that I would say that anyone can do, but especially if you are a male, if you're a male and you see people putting hate on female streamers purely for being female, stand up and say something, because the more people actually say, no, this is wrong, then the less people are going to actually put that hate out there. And a lot of the reason that that women streamers that I know have left Twitch or have not come onto Twitch in the first place is because they are scared that they're going to get that hate towards them, and they don't even want to try because of it. So, you know, I say this to everyone, but if you have the privilege of being able to stand up and say, no, you can't say that, this is wrong, um, just like shut that hate down, do it.
Yeah. So given that obviously, we've spoken about how how we could possibly inspire more females to get on Twitch. What do you think is a good message to sort of give out to anybody that might be listening to this that might be scared to use a webcam, for example? This is a subject that crops up quite a lot, is using a webcam, and a lot of people get anxiety. But since we're talking about the reasons why we love women on Twitch, and we want to inspire more awesome women to join Twitch, like, what sort of advice would you give to somebody that's willing, that's thinking about Twitch? What sort of advice would you give somebody that wants to turn on that webcam, but there's just that little thing in the back of her mind that's stopping her?
Um, the best advice I could give, so I'll give two types of advice. So the
Mm-hmm.
serious advice is, if you're thinking about it and if you think that it is something that you're going to enjoy, get some friends, get them on your channel when you're going to do it, mod them, ask them just to make sure that everything, stays nice and friendly, and if anyone comes into troll, they can just ban them and deal with it for you, and go for it. Because you know what? I used to be absolutely terrified to do this, and I wanted to start streaming for 3 years before I finally pressed that go live button, and I wish I had done it so much sooner.
What made you press that go live button?
It was actually just kind of hanging out on Twitch in some smaller streamers' channels and talking to them about it, and they were like, "Just you should try it because it's a lot of fun. You'd probably really enjoy it if you've been thinking about doing it for this long." And that kind of just gave me that sort of, I think having built a community beforehand, no matter how small, gave me the courage to actually do it. Um, the second piece of advice I would give that is a little bit less serious, but just as important, if you're worried about using a webcam on Twitch, invest in some really nice lighting, because it makes all the difference.
It does, it does. Um, yeah, it does. Lighting helps everybody when it comes to especially making that good, making the production value a lot higher and making your streams looking that bit more professional. Just basic lighting. I've got a ring light that's from China that costs about, I think it costs about £6, but it helps just brighten my ugly mug up a little bit. So yeah, definitely invest in a little bit of lighting, and it does wonders for quality. So obviously, if we want to start wrapping things up, and is there anything that you feel is important to not necessarily discuss, but just maybe if you've got any questions that you want to ask me, if anything's come to your mind whilst we've been chatting or anything, before we move on to audience questions?
No, I think we've had like quite a good discussion going here today, and it's always nice to kind of see the other side of things. So obviously you've spoken about how it's kind of almost mind-boggling for you for like to kind of hear about the hate that women have received on Twitch, and um it's kind of it's nice to be able to it's not nice, that's the wrong choice of words, but it's good to be able to talk about these things and kind of bring attention to them. And um I think that's why it's so important that if if you enjoy a streamer's content, and especially if they're in a minority that are likely to receive some sort of hate, um tell them that you enjoy it, and that you're proud of them and that you look up to them if you do, because it really does make a difference in people's lives. And um it doesn't cost you anything. It costs you a few minutes of your time and you could make their day. um
Mm.
but I think for me, that's probably the most important message to get out there, is just, be kind to one another.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I don't want to end the sort of topic on, you know, on on this comment, but I do feel like, and I did touch on it a little bit earlier, but I do feel like I personally have been a little bit naive when it comes to, the issues that women face on Twitch. Because obviously, as a bigger dude, I face my own issues on Twitch. I get a lot of people that come in and attack my appearance, attack my weight. I've had, comments, and I've been called names, and it doesn't touch me. But, you know, I've always assumed that everybody on Twitch, well, not assumed, but I always feel like everybody on Twitch is going to receive some sort of criticism in some way, shape, or form. Um, but I didn't realize until firsthand, until probably do you know what? I'd probably go as far as say today, and I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to upset anybody by saying this, but I feel like I didn't realize just the difference in level of harassment that females get from males. Because like I mentioned earlier, I was in a friend of mine's stream, and she was just constantly, about two or three different dudes came in roughly at the same time and were just sort of saying, "Oh, show us your feet," asking her to stand up, asking her to flash things. And it wasn't until that moment that, because I've always sort of spent more of my time in, sort of bigger streamers communities, where these people are less likely, they still appear, but less likely, or less often. But just two or three people in the same time frame just started, commenting about negative elements about her and her stream. And I just I sort of sat there. Now she's developed quite a thick skin, so she's sort of learned to deal with it, and I'm sure it still affects her, behind the scenes. But she's grew a thick skin and learned to deal with it. And I was like, oh well, I gave you a chance and you were still mean, so I banned you. They eventually got banned, but I was sat there like, dude, I would have banned them like 20 minutes ago when they made the first comment. Like, just the level of, sheer, to turn this around, just the level of, sheer awesomeness that she had shown and restraint. And, she's, dare I say that she's probably got bigger balls than I have, for putting up with what she did. But no, if you're happy with obviously the things that we've discussed, I mean, I know it's difficult, and I'm sure you'd agree that it is difficult to talk about this subject in such a short period of time, because it's such a huge issue and such a huge thing that we could discuss. But obviously, me and you both, we don't have all night, and we both have things to get on with. Um, so
Yeah.
um, but yeah, you've said your sort of finishing words. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go on to the questions?
No, I think we're good to just see what everyone else would like to know.
Yeah, so thank you guys. We are going to move on to a bit of a Q&A and a discussion with the Twitch chat right now. So if you have got anything that you want to add to what we've spoken about, or if anybody has any questions for me or any questions for Mouse Was Taken, please feel free to step up now and ask your questions, and let's talk about this before we go ahead and end. I know Lock and Strater says that's the mindset of viewers because of the rap female streamers get. Select few, make it a stereotype for the rest of the female streamers, which is wrong. I love listening to her voice. It's so soft and soothing. I know it's not a question, but I like it. Well, you've got an admirer, Mouse. So Plant Lamp asks you if he can Ursula your accent out of you and into him. I've got to admit, everybody loves a Scottish accent, especially in England. Me and Ashley, who's my fiance, absolutely love the Scottish accent. It's fabulous.
Well, you know, the best accent in the world comes from the best country in the world. No bias or anything.
So what's just a quick another quick question that I've just come up with on the spot actually is I'd love to know how is streaming perceived in Scotland, because I'd assume that it's similar to the UK, right? Like, not many people know about, well, you know, the general public don't really know about careers as a streamer or Twitch, or, you know, the potential that's in Twitch as a streamer. Like, what sort of things have you faced personally?
Well, I've not lived in Scotland while I've been streaming.
Oh, really?
I live in England at the moment, because I'm getting my PhD down here.
Ah.
But I mean, from living back there, it is pretty much the same as the rest of the UK. I mean, it's not really something that's well known. You know, I mean, I think it's only really been in recent years that things like YouTube have actually started to become known as like a career, and I think Twitch is still lagging behind just a little bit. It's starting to it's getting a bit more traction, because you have the mainstream streamers like Ninja as an example, who's kind of doing these massive things, and kind of paving the way for it to be seen as a career, but it's still not quite there yet in terms of everyone kind of knowing about it.
So I'd like to ask you and chat this question, but obviously I think 99% of us know who Ninja is. We've all heard the name Ninja at some point, and if you haven't, then just go and Google him. You'll learn about him pretty quickly. But one thing that I'd like to ask chat and you actually is, how do you think we can get, well, not how, but do you think we need or not? Let me think of the right way to word this, because obviously I don't want to word this incorrectly. Because one thing, if you know me, or if you get to know me, I'm terrible at wording things, and people normally I've been told off twice today for wording things incorrectly, and I'm terrible for it. But what do you feel we need to do in order to have you know, like the Ninja equivalent of a female? Like, how much do you think it would benefit the platform? Because I know we have, you know, content creators on Twitch such as Pokimane, who's a fantastic streamer, you know, and does a lot of, you know, variety game and stuff, you know, focuses on shooters, and she is definitely sort of getting up there as, you know, in the top 1%. But I mean, what's your thoughts on? Have you had any experience with Pokimane yourself, or is she not somebody that you particularly you know, enjoy watching?
I've not really watched much of her Twitch content. I mean, I've seen some of her YouTube videos and stuff. And you know, I'm sure she's a fantastic streamer. It's for me, it's more to do with time zones. You know, I'm getting on a bit. I can't stay up that late anymore. And for me, Twitch is all about sort of that that interaction, so I don't really enjoy watching VODs because I don't get that sort of real-time interaction with the streamer. Um, but to answer your other sort of point there is, I definitely think that having a woman streamer on the same sort of level of success as Ninja would be huge for the platform and for women streamers in general. Because, I mean, props to Ninja. He's done great with his streaming career and everything else. But it's, he's sort of almost reinforces that Twitch is for gaming mentality purely because he is
Hmm.
just a competitive game streamer. Um, Whereas, if we had someone up there, on the same sort of level that's more community focused and, does a lot of, um, you know, chatting streams or talk show streams or something that's a bit more out of the norm, then we might kind of break down that mentality a little bit more. And that could be like a huge sort of um, a benefit to every streamer, really. Any streamer that doesn't just come to Twitch to stream competitive gameplay, it can be a benefit for them.
Mm. I mean, Locken in chat right there says can't stand her. Just my opinion. Locken, would you care to elaborate on what it is you don't find appealing about her? Because obviously, we want to talk about this to potentially help other people as well. Because you know, I'm not saying finding out the reasons why you don't enjoy watching somebody is a good way, but it can be, depending on your answer, it can be, it can open up a different discussion, a different level of discussion. Um, I don't watch Pokemon, to be honest. I mean that's fair enough. At the end of the day, you've got to watch the people that bring you value. But obviously, because we're talking about, because we're predominantly talking about women on Twitch and why we love women on Twitch, then, because she's like one of the leading female Twitch streamers, I feel it's only natural to bring her up and talk about it in a well constructed sense to understand why people might enjoy her content and why people might not enjoy her content. Because at the end of the day, yes, women streamers and male streamers are great, but a streamer is a streamer as well. So, Faze says, I mean, the Mike James, this question is the same as why is there so few women in the music industry? Also, so many very big women streamers I've seen tend to be using their body for views. Yeah, Fizz, we discussed this briefly at the beginning, and we both agree that we don't feel that there's anything wrong with using, as you put it, using their body to get viewers. Um, because to me that just tells me that they've got incredible body confidence. And do you know what? If I was to dislike a woman because of that, it would purely be because she's got more confidence than I will ever have in life, and that makes me jealous. But
Same.
apart from that, I honestly believe that if a woman wants, men do this as well. It's quite an interesting one because a lot of people don't realize that there is actually men on Twitch as well that know that they are, to best put it, a bit more, maybe beefed up. They work out. They might have, what a lot of women would consider very good hair. I know that's a very subjective thing, but there is men that do it as well, but they don't get anywhere near the level of of hate. Not necessarily hate, but they don't get discussed nearly as much as females. She
I mean,
complains. Oh yeah, go on.
sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say on that note, I think 2019 is the year that we stop complaining about booby streamers and we start complaining about beard streamers because I just can't compete with these beard streamers, man.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I would love to have just such a perfect full beard that grows about maybe 3 or 4 inches would be absolutely beautiful. So I share your sort of disgruntled moans on beard streamers. um, Locken says she complains that people use YouTube etc. on Twitch, and she points it out. But then she used YouTube for videos etc. She's using others' content. So she complains that people use YouTube etc. on Twitch. Do you mean Locken? Do you mean that she uses YouTube like as I'm trying to grasp what you're talking about there. I don't see many men dancing in tiny clothes and Just Dance. Well, there's definitely a market open there first. Men
I'd
wear
watch
tight.
it.
Yeah, I'd watch it as well actually, because my dancing is terrible. I've got dad dancing for days. I could dad dance, anybody into the ground. Men wear tight shirts to show muscles or work out to show muscles and stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing, but they just don't get anywhere near as much slack. And to be honest, so I don't know who it was talking about it the other day, but I really enjoyed what they were saying. Because they were basically sort of going along the lines that that women were sort of on Twitch at least were fighting to break the the standards that society has put on them, and I absolutely love it personally, and I'm sure you do as well, Mouse.
Oh, I love it. If it's within terms of service and they're confident enough to do it, then more power to them. We need to kind of break down the social norms that prevent people from being able to do stuff just because society doesn't want them to. I mean, it's a whole other story if it's something that is illegal or is actually harming others, but if it's not causing anyone any harm and it's legal to do, then go for it.
Yeah, I mean, Locken says, but again, it's just my opinion on her. Everyone is entitled to their own, to their own opinions. It's everyone's right to agree to disagree. I 100%, well, I 100% agree with that statement, Locken. I'm just trying to, dig a little bit further just to understand your point, just so we can not necessarily argue against it, just so we can sort of, because we both want to stand here and give, a middle ground sort of elaboration on both sides, because we don't just want to back one side in any debate or any sort of discussion, especially on a podcast. You want to sort of understand and explore both sides. So I was just trying to understand, what elements in detail, what elements it was that you didn't find particularly entertaining. But again, I do want to stress that none of this comes down to gender. This 100% comes down to the entertainment and the experience of the individual, and that is not tied to gender. And I just want to, put that out there for anybody that might be listening and feel, strongly about a certain subject. I just want to sort of implore that you have a little bit of reason and just understand that we, both me and Mouse absolutely, support women content creators 200%. But we're just trying to discuss different elements that they daily face on Twitch from a sort of a middle ground standpoint. But I mean, me and Mouse, we both agree, right, that, women are awesome, and yes, they face things, and we both will stand by them for forever.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
If there's no more questions in chat, then we'll definitely start wrapping this up in just a moment. So is there any last minute words, on any of the questions or any of the comments that have been made? Is there anything that you want to add, Mouse? Because I know that I've done a lot of talking. It's a bad habit of mine. I ramble a lot.
No, I mean, I think we've kind of covered our point of views, and pretty much the majority of places we do agree with each other, especially when it comes to a woman's right to kind of choose what she wants to put out there. And I just kind of, I guess I kind of just want to reiterate that, you know, if someone is doing something and you don't like it, but it's not causing any issues and it's not against terms of service, then you're free to click away. But you know, don't go in there spreading hate. You know, if you're gonna comment on things, just if it's not constructive, then just be kind and, you know, spread a bit more love and positivity around Twitch, because God knows we could all use that at times.
So, yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in from chat, so I will go ahead and say thank you so much to everyone here who has participated and contributed to the discussion on the Tater Talk. Thank you, MouseWasTaken, for sharing your story and, you know, commenting on the reasons why we love women on Twitch, and, you know, more, and, you know, the things that they face, and all the subcategories that we've discussed tonight, and for helping us all grow and learn. And we will be continuing post podcast. But let's show a little bit of hype in chat for MouseWasTaken, guys. Just an exclamation mark hype in the chat right now to show your love and appreciation to our guest. And Mouse, if you'd like to tell us where people can find more of your content, if you'd like to share that with us.
Yeah, so I mean, you can find me on MouseWasTaken on Twitch and also Instagram and on Twitter at MouseIsTaken, because MouseWasTaken was ironically taken.
Oh, the irony. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Mouse, and I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and yeah, take care.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the next episode of Tater Talk.